What's up, faithful? And let me tell you, this team is teetering right on the edge. It's either a huge turnaround or total chaos. A guy nobody saw coming has become the attack's main pillar. Another one is still fighting to get back in the lineup, and the locker room feels every single absence like a gut punch. Meanwhile, a veteran's starting to catch eyes on the outside, and man, the end of an era might be closer than any of us want to admit. And just to top it all off, there's some serious backstage maneuvering that could totally change the game in the trenches. It's all happening at once. Come on, man. One wrong call right now, and the whole Super Bowl window slams shut. But before we dive into this analysis, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button right now. It's free, and it totally strengthens this community that lives and dies with every single game. Drop a like to spread this gospel to all the Chargers faithful, and get your comment on below, because this is the spot for the real fans, those of us who feel this team deep down through the glory and the utter painful suffering. Kamani Vidal has turned into the human shield that's keeping Justin Herbert on his feet. With the offensive line absolutely crumbling, the dude is carrying this offense on his back, and I'm not exaggerating here. Rashawn, Slater, and Joe Alt are done for the season, and the rest of the unit looks like a patchwork puzzle put together 5 minutes before kickoff. In this absolute mess, Vidal has become the one guy preventing the whole thing from collapsing. He's not just a runner, he's Herbert's freaking guardian. Patrick Claybon on NFL Daily called it before the Steelers game. Herbert is still lucky enough to have one of the best pass-blocking running backs in the league. The guy protects, he catches, and he buys time for the play to even exist. And that's exactly what you see on the field. The line is an absolute disaster. The pocket disintegrates, but Vidal jumps in there and steals precious seconds for Herbert to breathe and air the ball out. And look, Harbaugh hasn't been hiding from contact. Even under pressure, he's launching it deep. An average depth of target over 9 yards in the last 3 weeks. That's insane. In a situation where most quarterbacks would just lower their heads and take the checkdowns, he's going for the kill. And a huge part of that is the sheer confidence Vidal gives him. The line drama is ugly. Besides the two main tackles being out, Trey Pipkins, Mekhi Becton, Jamari Salyer, and even the recently acquired Bobby Hart have been dealing with injuries. They even traded for Trevor Penning, but the guy's never played guard, and he's still figuring it out. It's a Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid, man. In the middle of this chaos, Vidal doesn't just protect, he runs the ball and keeps the offense breathing. Since week 6, he's got over 300 rushing yards, nearly 10 receptions, and 2 combined rushing and receiving touchdowns. In 29 pass protecting snaps, he's only allowed 4 pressures and 0 sacks. Those are elite numbers, especially for a guy holding the whole damn thing together by himself. The Steelers' defense is exactly the kind that preys on makeshift lines. Heavy blitzing, fast front four, constant pressure. It's a quarterback's worst nightmare. If Vidal misses just one block, Herbert is going down. But if he plays like he has been, they can absolutely keep this game close and maybe, just maybe, steal this road win. Deep down, what Vidal is doing goes beyond the stats. It's quiet leadership. It's a presence that inspires confidence. Every snap he holds the fort, this team believes there's still a way. And in a year where the training room seems to be the most active part of the franchise, watching someone rise above the chaos is almost poetic. Here's the deal. In 2025, Kamani Vidal is not just a complimentary piece. He is the glue that's holding the entire offense together. And if the Chargers still have playoff dreams, it all starts with this dude right behind Herbert, blocking like the season depends on it, because it totally does. That changes everything. The news about Omarion Hampton felt like a kick in the stomach. His ankle is going to keep him out for at least 3 more weeks. And the problem isn't just the time, it's the crushing uncertainty. Since week 5 against Washington, he hasn't stepped onto the field. And the longer this drags on, the bigger the mystery gets. Nobody knows exactly what happened, and Harbaugh isn't giving us squat. The official line is that he'll only be back in practice after the Week 12 bye, but there's no word on a game day return. Nothing, not a single clue. The last time he was seen in public, he was still wearing that damn protective boot. And for a player who makes his living off of quick cuts and first step explosion, that lights up every single alarm. Kamani Vidal has been holding down the fort, sure, but the running game has become a roller coaster. 1 week it flows, the next it stalls. And Hampton's absence is huge. He provided balance, broke tackles, and opened things up for the play action. Now, without him, the offense feels like a car without shock absorbers. It moves, but it's shaking way too much. The weirdest part is that no one knows the actual deal with his ankle. It's not like Joe Alt's case, where he had surgery and was immediately ruled out for the season. With Hampton, the talk is vague. A fracture, a high ankle sprain. Harbaugh talks about monitoring, but he never details anything. And when a coach dodges questions like that, you know it's not simple. The most optimistic scenario has him back in week 13 against the Raiders. But that's if everything goes perfectly. The worst case, maybe not until the playoffs, if the team even gets there, you kidding me? The uncertainty is now part of the routine. And what's most intriguing is that even with zero clarity, the franchise didn't go after any big-name running backs at the trade deadline. Meaning that could be a sign of confidence in his return or just pure resignation with what they have. For all you fantasy football sufferers, this is pure desperation. With every update, there's less hope. This kind of ankle injury absolutely steals explosion, acceleration, and balance. And Hampton was the guy who got those extra yards with that quick hip rotation. Without that, half his talent just vanishes. The team is trying to stay positive. Harbaugh talks about consistent rehab. Reporters repeat that there's progress, but nobody confirms anything concrete. Even the closest insiders admit no one outside the medical staff knows the full diagnosis. Meanwhile, Herbert is improvising with what he has. Vidal carrying the load, the quarterback himself running when he has to, and the committee of backups trying not to totally sink the ship. And to think, 2 months ago, this team had 3 starting caliber running backs on the roster. Today, they're either on the shelf or playing hurt. Deep down, the fans are already starting to accept that Hampton might come back, but he won't be the same. And maybe that's the most bitter pill to swallow, because when a player loses that first step, he loses the difference maker that made him special. Just watch. While the roster tries to hold itself together, the future is already hovering over the locker room. And one name in particular is at the center of the conversation, Khalil Mack. The veteran is still producing on the field, but he's already popping up in 2026 free agency projections as one of the top 10 players available. And this isn't just some random rumor. The Cowboys and Eagles are watching closely. Bleacher Report listed Mack as the 10th best projected player to hit the market, highlighting that he still has impact even as father time is knocking. 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 8 tackles in 5 games since that elbow injury. Nothing earth-shattering, but more than enough to show the tank isn't empty yet. And teams with huge playoff aspirations like Dallas and Philadelphia absolutely love veterans like this, productive, experienced, and hungry for one more shot at a ring. But there's a factor that weighs heavily. Mack considered retiring before his last extension. He agreed to stay in Los Angeles for another year, almost as an act of faith in Harbaugh and the guys. The man is a silent leader, the kind of guy who makes the defense run. So imagining him trading all that for one last contract somewhere else is a scenario that mixes logic and pure emotion. And the current context complicates things even further. The Chargers had to grab Odafe Owe mid-season just to shore up the pass rush rotation. Without Mack, the whole damn system collapses. It's that simple. Even if he's not in his prime anymore, his presence still sets the tone, both on the field and in the locker room. But money talks, man, and the chance to finish his career on a contender, playing fewer snaps and chasing a Super Bowl ring, that could tempt any veteran. Dallas especially has a history of betting on experienced names with gas left in the tank. And Philadelphia, with that heavy rotational front, is the kind of environment where Mack would be an absolute wrecking ball without having to carry the piano by himself. On the Chargers side, there's hope. The team showed last offseason they're willing to open the vault to keep their key players, and there's no indication Mack wants to leave on bad terms. But at this point, he knows that every season could be his last, and every decision has to have a purpose. If he decides to stay, awesome. The team gets another year of defensive stability. If he opts to leave, it'll be a huge hole to fill, and the front office will need another surgical move not to lose the unit's balance. Either way, what's at stake here isn't just a contract. It's his legacy. Mack still has fuel in the tank and maybe one more great story to write. The question is, where? And that's where things started to heat up behind the scenes. In the middle of so many adjustments and improvisations, a name outside the spotlight started to gain traction inside the Chargers facility. LaRaven Clark. At 32, the veteran is still a free agent, but his profile seems perfectly tailored for what Harbaugh and Greg Roman are looking for: physical, disciplined, and experienced enough to literally hold down the edges. The offensive line has become the biggest puzzle of the season. Without Slater and Joe Alt, The offense lost the base that supported the running game and the vertical play action. And that's where Clark enters as a real possibility, not just out of necessity, but because he's a perfect fit. The guy has 8 years in the league, knows heavy running systems, and can play on both sides of the line. He's not a star, but he's the kind of player who makes the system work without demanding the spotlight. Roman values exactly this type of piece: players who understand physical football, who hit people without being soft, and who execute the plan with discipline. Clark is that in essence. With him, the team could reopen the playbook, go back to using 12 personnel formations, and exploit the double pull on runs, something that's been limited since the injuries. And it's not just about the field. The locker room is part of this equation too. The leadership of Herbert, Derwin James, and Mack keeps order, but there's a lack of quiet veteran depth, that type of presence that keeps the group focused when everything seems to be falling apart. Clark would be exactly that. A veteran who comes in, works, and stays grounded. The issue is the money. The Chargers' current cap space is around $1.05 million, practically the minimum value to sign a veteran. Any move like this would require a cut or a contract restructure. That turns a simple decision into an administrative nightmare. Harbaugh and the front office would have to carve out space, maybe with bonus adjustments or releasing a back of the roster player. Even so, the idea isn't absurd. Clark would cost close to $1.2 million, which is symbolic in terms of technical impact, but heavy on such a tight cap. And precisely because of that, the negotiation would have to be razor thin, the kind that shows how much the team believes he can stabilize the unit. Of course, there's risk. Clark isn't a world beater. He's had minor injuries and hasn't started a game since 2022. But as a short-term solution, the value is in ensuring consistency where the team is struggling the most. The goal isn't to find a savior, but someone who allows the system to breathe again. Behind the scenes, the talk is that Harbaugh sees this kind of signing as a culture move, bringing in someone who understands what the team wants to be. Clark, in that sense, would almost be an extension of Roman on the field, the player who executes without question and provides security to those around him. In the end, it might not be a headline, but sometimes the pieces that go unnoticed are the ones that keep the engine running. And for a team that still believes in running the ball to win, having a guy like Clark could be the difference between surviving and regaining respect in the AFC West. No way he missed that. This can still turn into history. In the end, it all connects. Vidal courageously holding up the offense, Hampton trying to return to give them some life, Mack deciding if he has one more war left in his body, and the possibility of Clark arriving to stabilize what's left of the line. The team is on a knife's edge, man, between utter collapse and a huge playoff push. But if there's one thing Los Angeles has never lost, it's sheer stubbornness. There's still time, there's still fight, and this group, as patched up as it is, keeps believing. So comment below. This is the space for everyone who lives and breathes the Chargers and feels every single snap like it's the Super Bowl.